The information provided on this podcast is intended to be educational and informational only and is not considered to be formal legal advice. The listener should not take or refrain from taking action based on its content. Any listener in need of legal opinion upon which to rely in decision-making should consider formally engaging an attorney to review relevant facts in detail and examine the pertinent law as it applies to those facts.
Welcome to Real Estate Milestones, where we explore fascinating topics in commercial real estate with knowledgeable industry experts. I'm your host, Ben Malik, and I'm a young real estate professional who is passionate about adding value to people's lives through the incredible power of real estate. My goal is to help you discover what the heck is going on in the industry and how you can get involved. This is Real Estate Milestones, where your future in real estate lies just around the corner.
Hello, everyone. Today, I'm joined by our newest guest, Brett Swarts. He is an entrepreneur, commercial real estate investor, podcaster, capital gains tax deferral expert, Deferred Sales Trust, educator and trustee, and California multifamily broker. He's the founder of Capital Gains Tax Solutions, founder of Commercial Real Estate Apartment Advisors, and host of Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. Each year, he equips hundreds of business professionals with the Deferred Sales Trust tool to help their high net worth clients solve capital gains tax deferral limitations. I met Brett a few weeks ago at the Intelligent Investors Real Estate Conference. He was on a panel talking about taxes and other trending topics in his area of expertise. And I had to have him on the podcast because personally, I think taxes are very exciting. I know that they're the bane of everyone's existence, but as a real estate enthusiast, I think it's one of the most exciting parts about the industry. So it's an honor to have you on, Brett. And would you like to give a little more context to your background?
Hey, thanks, Ben. Yeah, excited to be here, add some value to you and your listeners. Fell in love with real estate at a young age. My parents building homes and rentals in the kind of the Silicon Valley, East Bay area of California, and quickly knew that I wanted to be in real estate at some point in my life. Went away to college and had a chance to play basketball on scholarship and academic scholarship, and had a couple degrees and a minor. But during that journey as well, I had a chance to take an internship at a place called Marcus & Millichap, where I learned how to underwrite properties, how to sell multifamily properties, and how to add value to clients and solve problems using what's called the 1031 exchange. The marketplace fell apart in 2008. We had to pivot in a lot of ways to figure out ways to help people not feel trapped by the 1031 ever again and overpay for property. That's when I learned about the Deferred Sales Trust, started to apply it to my business. Business started to grow. Now I just teach and train people how to do this. I'm excited to be able to share some of this knowledge with you guys.
Yeah, I'm very excited as well. So in classic real estate milestones fashion, could you tell us about your first milestone in commercial real estate?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's a couple of milestones. It would be like getting that first $100,000 commission check, right? When I sold a very large transaction. That was a huge milestone when I really felt like I became an expert in commercial real estate, which was the 2+ years of 60-hour weeks of cold calling, underwriting, touring properties, inspections, escrows, negotiations, lending, all of that's involved with the training at Marcus & Millichap was, gave me with some really good mentors. And so that first $100,000 check was kind of a culmination, because I remember sitting in my office or at the office in the cubicles, never quite had the office on the sides where all the big people were, but I was brand new to the business. And my cousin, he's my mentor, and my manager showed a $98,000 check as he was walking by and about to give to my cousin. He showed it to me. He said, "I want you to look at this. This is real, right? This check is real. Like, if you work really hard, you'll be here someday." And that's like the more money I've ever seen, because growing up, parents, it was interesting. We had a lot of money at first, and my dad had a lot of money, but my parents got divorced at a young age. And so I saw both sides of the wealth and no wealth kind of spectrum. And I always wanted to have margin in my life. And so a part of that was being entrepreneurial, was trying to swing for the fences and do big real estate deals. But it's 100% sink or swim type of opportunity at Marcus & Millichap. And so when he showed me that check, he showed me what could be real. And then he said, "You'll be there someday." And that began the process of slowly improving my craft, understanding deals, understanding markets, becoming an expert. And then one day I did. And so I did that one. I would say that was a big milestone. The second one would be probably the first big deferred sales trust deal. Like, we did a lot of smaller ones, but we started doing some bigger ones, $8 million deals, $7.9 million deal, $5 million deal. working on a $55 million deal right now. But I mean, there's a lot of smaller ones that were 600,000 or $1 million or 1.5, and then, but now we're doing much bigger ones, and we're getting into the tens of millions of dollars of deals. And so those would probably be the biggest two milestones there.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And before we start talking about what a deferred sales trust is, there's a theme that I kind of noticed that, some of these tax loopholes or tax advantages that the government gives real estate investors are really exciting and interesting. And a lot of people wonder, is this fair? Is this legal? Like, how are these people getting away with this? And I mean, I've learned that it's because the government is not as good at building and maintaining real estate as the private sector. And so they incentivize us to do it. But could you tell us a little bit more about that before we get into some of the more details?
Yeah, I mean, part of being an American citizen is we have certain rights, right? And the government can't force us to sell things or force us to build things or force us to go into business, but they can give us tax incentives to do the things that they can't do very effectively. So you mentioned real estate, right? That's one of the ones. If you look at any kind of affordable housing or any kind of government, real estate projects, they tend to be way over budget, not very well necessarily thought out, and not necessarily going to serve the community in the highest and best way that the private sector can do. And so that's where they create tax incentives for entrepreneurial real estate people to put the blood, sweat, and tears of development, design, construction, going through the legal parts, the environmental parts, the lending parts, getting the capital, all of those pieces that create this, beautiful puzzle of a real estate, multifamily, commercial real estate apartment, a building or office building or industrial, whatever it might be. And so they say, hey, as long as you do these things in this way, we'll give you a tax incentive, right? Same thing with an IRA or 401k, right? They're not in the business bin of saying, hey, I want to take care of all the people in retirement, right? I want everyone who's 60 or 70 or 80 years old, the government just to have to fund all of their life. And so they say, you know what? Why don't we do this? Why don't we incentivize them when they're younger to put money into an IRA or 401k so that they can take care of themselves, right? Same thing with the Deferred Sales Trust, right? In this scenario, it's applied to highly appreciated assets that are subject to huge capital gains tax. And the government says, how about we incentivize Ben if he has, $10 million of Bitcoin, right? That he got for $100,000, and he's looking to diversify it and go buy an apartment complex or go start a business with some college roommates, some startup company that could be like a Facebook that could literally be billions and billions and billions of dollars of tax revenue for the US government. They're going to incentivize you to exit that asset, that Bitcoin, defer the tax, diversify their risk. If you think about it, it's not only diversifying your tax liability, right, and giving that incentive, it's diversifying their ability to actually collect that. Because if they don't, and call it Bitcoin or Ethereum or any other kind of altcoin, it could be, 50% less. Bitcoin's literally dropped from 68,000 to 35,000 in the past 2 months. It's kind of wild how fast it went high and low, and it's probably going to work its way back up to 68,000 in another year or so, or whatever, 6 months, who knows? But the point is, if they can incentivize us to exit smart, exit tax efficiently, and then say, hey, as long as the funds go into a business venture, as long as they're not spent on Ben's personal use, right? As long as they actually macroly benefit society, we're gonna incentivize him to do that by allowing him to defer the tax. And so that's really the essence of why the Deferred Sales Trust is legal and why the IRC 401k is legal. IRC 1031 is legal. Our code is actually IRC 453. Just most people don't know how to do it and how it works.
Yeah, that's all great stuff. And so the first thing that blew my mind in this field of taxes and real estate was the 1031 exchange, because you can tell us a little bit more, but I think it's just amazing why it exists and what you can do with it. But so could you tell us a little bit more about the 1031 exchange, and then tell us how the Deferred Sales Trust is different and what that accomplishes more specifically?
Yeah, so 1031 exchange is one of the best wealth tools that the government gives us, especially for investment real estate owners, because it allows us to take an asset, let's say a 4-unit or an 8-unit or a 10-unit that's worth $400,000, $1 million, $2 million, doesn't matter. It could be $20 million asset, and sell it. And instead of exiting and paying the tax, they incentivize you to roll the funds or trade it into another property, purchase another asset that's a real estate asset, in order to build more wealth for us and defer the tax for us. And so it's just a way to keep the money rolling. Again, kind of like an IRA or 401k. Instead of paying all the tax up front, they allow you to say, put all the money in there, let it grow in a tax deferred state. And so that's been very well known and tested and tried for years and years and years and years. Every commercial real estate owner knows about it. Every commercial real estate broker knows about it. Realtor knows about it. Very, very well known, but it only applies to investment real estate. Okay. And so whereas the deferred sales trust, what's really cool about it is it works for investment real estate. It can also save a failed 1031, but it also works for high-end primary homes. We just did an $8.3 million sale for a client out of Palo Alto who was selling his primary home, and he could not exit without the deferred sales trust unless he's going to pay a bunch of tax or give it all away to charity, which he didn't want to do. And so the deferred sales trust allowed him to exit his real estate, move to Nevada, establish residency, and defer all the tax. We just did it for a Bitcoin seller. She bought it for about $50,000. Her Bitcoin went to 50 million. She exited about 5 million of that Bitcoin. That was big. Did it for an Ethereum seller, a married couple out of Oakland. They bought Ethereum. He worked in the Silicon Valley, one of the big tech companies, for many years, and he's an expert in technology. He exited out of about a $13 million position, about $7.5 million of it. And then, of course, we've done it for dentists, orthodontists, optometrists, car dealerships. We've done it for carried interest. We've done it for artwork, collectibles, public or private stock. And so it's kind of like a 1031. But it has none of the restrictions either. So you can have total freedom with how and where you invest the funds. You have total freedom on the timing. You can dollar cost average. You don't have to do any equal or greater value or any shotgun weddings, I call it, which is the 1031 45-day engagement or identification and 180-day close. And so really it's just knowing the rules, figuring out what you're trying to do, and then applying which tool helps you to get there.
Yeah, that's great. And I know that the 1031 is called the like kind exchange. And I thought that meant like if you have a multifamily apartment, you have to get a multifamily apartment, but it's actually any real estate that's for investment use can be rolled into, like an office can be rolled into a multifamily, and industrial
Correct.
can be a data center. And
Correct.
so it sounds like there's even fewer restrictions with a deferred sales trust. And I know you had this one story near the top of the market in 2006 where you helped someone buy property and or defer their sales. And then, you can tell the story better than us. You want to tell us that story?
Yeah, it's called the Monday Morning Quarterback. And I was speaking at the IIREC conference in Manhattan Beach, and that's where I met you, Ben. And it was really cool because that's a story that changed it for me forever. And so this deferred sales trust, or this owner of commercial real estate was looking at the deferred sales trust for the first time. And he's in 2006, this guy's worth a couple $100 million. And he's going, I don't know that this market makes any sense. Like he had a sense that the prices were inflated. There wasn't a lot of inventory. Tons of money is chasing these few deals. So he's like, look, I'll sell my $20 million asset in Minnesota across or close to the Minnesota Vikings Stadium. I'll sell this asset. However, I'm not going to do a 1031 exchange, and I don't want to pay the tax. So I will try this deferred sales trust because like most commercial real estate owners, right? Like myself and brokers, like commercial real estate is like a religion, and we believe that the 1031 exchange is the only doctrine, right? And we think that's the only way to do it, most of us, right? Until we learn something new. And he thought the same thing. He's like, you know what? I think the same thing, except for I'm not going to do a 1031 because these prices are crazy, but I'll try this deferred sales trust. So he had the funds at close sent to the trust. So he deferred all of his tax, put it in very conservative stocks, bonds, mutual funds, which, by the way, this guy hates the stock market. He's not a big fan of the stock market. He was like, well, better than like paying all this tax, right? So 5 years later, the bank calls him up and was like, hey, you know that property you sold to that crazy 1031 California buyer? He's like, yeah, I remember that property. He's like, yeah, well, we just foreclosed on it. And we're just curious, do you want to buy it back from us? And he's like, well, maybe, what's the price? And this is where the Monday Morning Quarterback comes in, right? He goes, well, they said, well, about 40% less than what you sold it for. He's like, you're going to sell me back the property that I already sold at $20 million for 40% less. They said, yes. He said, give me a few days. And he had his trust reallocate the funds to an LLC and purchase the property all tax deferred, not using a 1031. And that's like, we watched the 49ers lose to the Rams yesterday. My heart's broken. And there's just one play where the safety drops this, probably one of the easiest interceptions probably in his career. He hits his hands. He can't believe anyone's not around him. So I think that's what he's looking for, someone to hit him, right? And then he just drops it. And he's like, oh my gosh. Well, that's the Monday Morning Quarterback would say that, hey, no one's around you. Just stop and catch the ball, look it in, and we win the game, right? But instead, 2020, hindsight's 2020, right? He doesn't. And so in this scenario, this is what we would have told everybody. We would have said, hey, everybody, sell in 2006. Put the money into the Deferred Sales Trust. Put it in conservative stocks, bonds, mutual funds, stuff that wasn't subject to the big crash of '08, because there are things that you could hedge and protect it. Wait for everyone or a lot of people to get foreclosed on and properties to be 50%, 40%, 30% less than what you sold yours for. Buy it back with the trust, all tax deferred, and never use a 1031 ever again. Like, that's the Monday morning quarterback, right? But this is what he did, and this is what's possible. And so now we're just trying to help people understand that you can do this. Like, this is Netflix to Blockbuster. Most people are stuck in Blockbuster. And they think that's the only way. You're like, no, there's a thing that you don't have to ever return a movie in 3 days. You don't have to rewind it back in the old VCR days, right? You don't have to worry about a scratched DVD. You have to worry about getting a wrong thing. Like, the Deferred Sales Trust is Netflix. Like, there's some ongoing fees. I'm the trustee. We get paid ongoing fees, and the financial advisors and the tax attorney get paid, right? There's a number of things that you have to go through. But if it can give you that Monday morning quarterback opportunity, right? If it can give you the opportunity to develop real estate like another client did in Tennessee, he sold a business for $2.6 million, and he's building with it multifamily, 70 units, all tax deferred. So it's not like kind. It's all tax deferred. It's ground up development, and he's doing it slowly. So once you understand that there's a way better way, most people will never go back to a 1031 ever again. So I don't know if Ben is still there or not. He might be frozen. But I'm going to keep talking until Ben returns. He'll probably be coming back here in a minute. By the way, if you want to learn more about that, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. It's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. We're also coming out with my book here. And this is Building a Tax-Deferred Exit Strategy. It's the proven playbook for unlocking your ideal wealth plan for when selling assets of any kind for yourself and your clients. Ben is back. Ben, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. I don't know what happened there. I just
took a little commercial break and I just plugged my book while we were waiting for you.
All right. Well, I'm back. Sorry about that.
All good.
Perfect. And yeah, so we're getting sports advice and we're getting real estate advice, and it's pretty similar. So some good stuff. All right. So let's get back to it. And could you tell us or if there was something that you could imagine, what would be the best tax advice, or something that a college student can start thinking about as they start a career or start being an entrepreneur? What would be one of the most important considerations you would have us make?
So Robert Kiyosaki says it really well. First of all, you want to model after people that have already done what you want to do. Okay. So like none of this stuff is like new under the sun. I mean, you might hear about the Deferred Sales Trust is new but you haven't done it because you haven't met us and our team and done it yet. But as far as just like general tax advice or real estate or entrepreneur advice, like there's people that it's so common. Like Robert Kiyosaki is amazing. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, his book, Cash Flow Quadrant. But he said something that was really profound to me. And after many years of studying what he did and how he did it, I had never heard him put it this way or hadn't listened close enough. But he said, the purpose of a business is to purchase real estate. And he breaks that down and he goes, if you think about it, like most of us think the purpose of a business is to get profit or get cash flow or to have freedom or to build wealth, which those are all part of the purpose. But what he says is the moment you change your mindset to the whole purpose of my business is to be profitable enough to earn cash flow in order to purchase real estate. He goes, that changes everything, because what happens is, he goes, you start to get all of the tax incentives that real estate offers, right? You can do things like cost segregation, accelerated depreciation. You can do things like bonus depreciation. You can do things like becoming a real estate professional, where you can essentially take your income tax, which is our highest tax rates that we pay, and you can take that to zero by offsetting what you have in real estate and the depreciation of it to offset the cash flow. And this is part of, well, the rich get richer. Well, this isn't fair. Well, let's think about what you're providing society versus what, entrepreneurs and people who own real estate are providing society, right? Housing, for example, is one of the most important things to provide, because if we don't have housing and food, right, essentially education doesn't really matter, and our health doesn't really matter, and our economics and entrepreneurship doesn't really matter. And so if we can provide good, safe, clean housing with also great schools, right, and education and all of these things, well, guess how you do that? Well, you incentivize people to do it so they get the tax breaks. And so basically what the government says, again, back to our original point, if you own real estate and you do it in a way that's, especially multifamily, 27 and a half years to depreciate the asset, you get these tax incentives. And so I would just say for any entrepreneur or student who's thinking about becoming a business owner, to know that your end is to own real estate, or at least it should be if you want to be very, very profitable tax-wise. It's not just what you bring in, but what you net after taxes or before taxes, if you can defer it. And keep that model in mind, and that helps to shift from just earning a bunch of money, because then you could pay a lot of taxes. You want to earn a bunch, but you want to have an equal amount as much or quickly as you can real estate to be able to buy. And so Grant Cardone does an amazing video on this. If you search Grant Cardone CRE save taxes, he breaks it down in a 13-minute video, and he goes, these are the steps, right? In the very beginning, spend only the bare minimum of what you have to actually live on. Do not go buy the fancy stuff. Don't go buy the fancy cars, the watches, all the extra stuff we could be spending the money on. Save as much as you possibly can. Live on the bare minimum and start to invest that into real estate assets, opportunities. It could be, first of all, a passive investor, right? You can maybe get with Ben on one of his deals, right? And you can start to become a passive in small amounts. Start to exercise that muscle of investing those funds instead of spending those funds, right? And then eventually you try to hopefully own your own properties with partners, right? And you level up to the next one. But it's establishing those habits in the beginning of understanding why you're going to become an entrepreneur and why your business is going to produce cash flow and what the purpose of it really is, which is to own, in my mind, and Robert Kiyosaki's mind, it was just to own investment real estate.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I've been recommending Rich Dad Poor Dad to probably everyone who's listening to this. And look, we got another guy who's telling you to read it. So if you're not convinced, you should be. And also, yeah, I guess building wealth is not about how much you make. It's more about how much you keep. And it sounds like real estate is, the time-tested best way of keeping your wealth. And,
Exactly.
That's why I'm interested in it. And I think without real estate, I won't be able to accomplish my ultimate goals of financial freedom and, freedom of time. And that's ultimately what a lot of us want. So could you give us a tax strategy or something that people who maybe are in the middle of their life or, have a family, have some kids, what they could be thinking about in terms of, tax possibilities, especially if they own a primary residence?
So it's the same thing that I'm telling the students, right? Own as much investment real estate as you possibly can with partners or by yourself, and depreciate the asset to offset your ordinary income tax, even if you're a W-2 employee. I mean, check with your CPA on everything we're saying here, but make sure that you explore what's actually possible, right? So if you're like a married couple, like for example, my wife's a full-time mom, right? And I'm a real estate professional, and I'm capital gains tax deferral expert. I'm a commercial real estate broker here in Sacramento, multifamily expert. So, imagine I wasn't that. Imagine I was like a W-2 employee somewhere. Well, the other spouse can become the real estate professional because their main source of income is not your W-2 job, right? They're separate, but you guys file jointly as a taxes. And so if you structure it correctly and you get with your CPA, there are ways that you could still qualify for this real estate professional status. Doesn't mean you have to get a real estate license. It just means that as a joint couple, you could establish buying real estate, doing cost segregation, and offsetting income. Now, these are active deals, meaning you have to do it yourself, to get it off of your active income. Lots of little nuances here. If you're passive, that's also great too. You can offset the passive income. So yeah, getting with a really good CPA and building out a dream team to help you build that wealth is very important. So that'd be the biggest thing for middle-aged folks. I'd also recommend this, maybe go against a lot of people, what they think in traditional way of building wealth, is immediately stop all retirement IRAs or 401ks, unless they have some kind of matching. Never give up matching. If they match the money, take it. It's free money, right? 100% match up to that max, do it. But don't put anything above and beyond that. Here's how I made the decision, right? At points during my career and everything else, I was paying into 401ks and IRAs, but I quickly wanted to clarify, why am I doing this, right? Well, it's around retirement. Okay, that's true. Well, when do I want to retire? 60 or 70? Or what about 40 or 50? Right? Well, how do I quickly get to 40 or 50 if I'm putting it all something I can't touch till I'm 60 or 70? Well, so that immediately just said, okay, from here on out, we're not putting any more into anything that's not matching. Okay. And so we stopped. And so I would encourage you not to follow the traditional, just put it all into the 401k, Wall Street, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and I can't touch it till I'm 60 or 70, because is that really what you want? Do you want to have to wait to live your retirement then versus if you could do it now? And how you do it now is by investing in real estate and assets that appreciate, that give you cash flow, maybe investing in some cryptocurrency to try to hit some really big home runs, right? Like the clients did. They're working on the tech company. Part of why they exited into the Deferred Sales Trust was to get consistency on their cash flow, but also to retire from their day job. They literally never have to work again. They're working 60, 70-hour weeks. And my client, his name is Peter. I wrote a whole blog on this. You go to Capital Gains Tax, you go to read his whole story. He's like, Brett, I was ready to be retired. Like, I want to be done with my W-2 job. Like, I want freedom with my family right now. He's in his mid 40s versus having to wait until your IRA or your 401k or 60 or 70. These arbitrary rules that are in place, you have to ask yourself, why is it there? So again, if you're in your this also goes for the new person too, but if you're paying into that 401k or that IRA, really clarify what you want. And if what you want is waiting till 60 or 70, continue. If you don't want that, get out.
Yeah, that's a bunch of great points there. And I know that, if you're just invested in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, very, very high likelihood that you're going to be exposed to two, I guess, very large drops in the market before it recovers. And, we're hoping that it's not exactly lined up with the age you turn 70 or when you're supposed to, exit your retirement plan. But I heard of the SDIRA. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? Because I know it gives you the flexibility to maybe get the consistency of income through investing passively in syndications, like some of the things that we talked about in the past and, talked about on the show a lot.
Yeah. So earning wealth away from Wall Street, which means the ability to go to self-directed, in retirement funds or retirement accounts, 401ks, IRAs, is a great way to diversify away from the traditional stock market. And so that's cool. I've done that too, by the way. That's part of also my strategy for the funds that were still left in there. I've redeployed it into other areas that have more of alignment with commercial real estate assets, cash flow, stuff that I could know, like, and trust and see, touch and feel, and have some control over. And so, yeah, I'm a big fan of those. Those are really good ways to do that. And yeah, again, most people don't know about them. I'd say they're more alone than they were even just 5 years ago, but there's some great groups that work out there that specialize in all of that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And could you, so I know there's a lot of talk nowadays about these mega Roths, and that, I heard there's only 400 of them in the world, but I know, there's a lot of political commentary about it. How do these people get these mega Roths? And I heard of this backdoor conversion from a traditional to a Roth. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I know a little bit about that. I'm mostly an expert in deferred sales trust, but essentially, the average person listening to this don't have 10 million or more inside of their Roth account, so it really doesn't even apply to them. But there are those in the government that want to take something that some people have taken advantage of in a really lucrative way, and totally legal, right? They can do this, and they want to try to shut down self-directed IRAs for the rest of us that are, in that, say $100,000 to $2 million range in retirement accounts. And so, that's the main part about that. But essentially, Roth is tax-free. You pay the tax, and then any of the growth is tax-free. Traditional, IRAs, non-Roths are going to be not taxed up front, but you're going to get some tax on the growth. Okay, so those are all things to consider. But again, most of my focus is not doing any of those retirement stuff. I think that's kind of secondary, except for the match. I'm really focused on entrepreneurial cash flow, real estate with partners, and the stuff that I'm doing.
Great. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I guess along those lines, what has been your most recent milestone in commercial real estate?
Most recent milestone in commercial real estate. So I'll do one that was a deferred sales trust client that was pretty awesome. They're worth about $25 million, and they wanted to sell a $5 million multifamily complex in Colorado. And their biggest challenge was $25 million of their wealth, including this $5 million asset, was all inside of their taxable estate. And they're looking for ways to exit not only the real estate and not do another 1031 and overpay, but also to eliminate the estate tax. And so in one day, one transaction, on someone who'd never heard about this before, who'd only done 1031s the entire life, who chose us to help them exit their wealth in a way that they didn't think was possible. And so they exited that $5 million position in exchange for a promissory note, which is what we do here with Capital Gains Tax Solutions. But at the same time, all of those funds are now outside their taxable estate, which is going to eliminate 40% of the death tax on that $5 million, which is $2 million, which completely blows the 1031 out of the water, right? The 1031 only helps you defer capital gains tax. Same thing with opportunity zones. It only helps you apply, defer, or even maybe eliminate some capital gains tax, but it has nothing to do with the stepped up basis, or it has a stepped up basis. It has nothing to do with the estate tax or death tax, which the stepped up basis doesn't take care of. So you might have a $50 million estate, but all of that could be inside of your taxable estate. And if you're single, you have a $12 million exclusion, right? And so you have about 38 million inside. Well, 40% of that would be wiped out, regardless if a stepped up basis. And so to me, that's the big elephant in the room that most people are overlooking. We talk about, 1031s or Delaware Statutory Trust or even Deferred Sales Trust. But the biggest thing is what's going to solve that big legacy play. That's where the Deferred Sales Trust shines. I think that's my latest biggest milestone, and that was a game changer for them.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know it's like kind of a grim topic to talk about, moving on and, death and things related to that. But I mean, a lot of multi-generational wealth, comes from people acknowledging that this is part of the cycle of life, and that, you really can open up a lot of opportunities for your legacy by doing the correct things, tax related. And I'm sure Brett comes on again. We'll talk a lot about that, and I'm sure we'll have some other guests, because I hope I've gotten you guys as excited about taxes as I find it to be exciting. So before we move into the lightning round, I just wanted to ask, you've had a lot of success in your life and a lot of amazing things, but I know a lot of learning and a lot of growth comes from failure. So I was wondering if you've had any significant failures in your life that you've learned a lot from, and, if you could tell us a little bit about that. Yeah.
I mean, the biggest failure was when I started Marcus & Millichap in 2006. The marketplace was hot and things were going good and things were building up a ton of momentum. I just graduated from college and I was all ready to go. And then the market hit the brick wall, right? And that's where everything came to a screeching halt. And I remember sitting in my mentor's office, I don't cry, but I'm crying. All the pressure had built up. My wife's at home with our new baby girl. We're not sure how we're going to put food on the table. It's 100% sink or swim commission job. It's not salary. It's not benefits. You either close or you don't. And another deal that just fell apart. It was a 1031 buyer who decided not to buy the property, literally the best location in Granite Bay, and ended up being a Walmart there and a Chick-fil-A and a Habit Burger. It was an amazing retail center. At the time, it didn't have all of those things, but we're buy it. It's good. It's the best real estate. And he missed it. And I just couldn't believe he didn't buy it. I was certain he was going to buy it and it was going to change everything for us, but it fell apart. And I remember just breaking down and I remember just going, do I really, really want this? But I felt like a failure. I really did, because my parents divorced when I was young. So I always knew I wanted to have wealth in my family, because wealth was a big part of, money was a big challenge. My mom not having any because my dad didn't pay child support. So all of these things started flooding back to me. And my wife's home full time with our baby. I'm a failure. I feel like a failure as a dad, as a father, I'm not providing. And I remember sitting there going, what do I need to do in order to keep this dream alive? So I go home and I sit down with my wife. I'm like, hey, Melanie, here's our situation. We're credit cards are maxed. We're in debt. We have student loans that are piling up in debt. And I said, look, we can do a couple things. We can move with my brother into a small condo. I can get a side job hustle. I can burn the candle at both ends. And so that's what we did. We moved my brother to a small condo. I got a side job at a place called Cheesecake Factory, and I started to serve as server by night. But by day, I'd make cold calls. And so I worked 60, 70-hour weeks, Monday, 7 days a week. And I did that for 2 years, and it was crazy, but it was necessary as a part of my growth, right? And I look back at that, and it's a journey to understand that you might see success now on this side of things, but it wasn't always easy, right? That also included working AAU basketball tournaments, nights and weekends, as a hot dog salesman and door salesman. It included medical sales at one point. I did a medical sales W-2 job for a little while. And it included continuing to serve my clients on a high level, even when it wasn't great for them to sell. And so that's part of how I was successful too, is because during this crash, I was negotiating with banks and clients on their deals, but I was telling them, don't sell because it's not a good time. Hold. Let's wait till the market comes back and help them to work out their situation. And then all of them start calling me again when the market came back. And then that's also where the Deferred Sales Trust came into play. So that's all kind of a part of the journey. So that was the biggest failure, but biggest opportunity for growth.
Yeah, that's amazing. I really appreciate you sharing, and that's super inspiring. I hope you all got a lot out of that. So let's go into the lightning round. To start, well, these questions are going to get increasingly harder, so I hope you're ready. But so let's start. What superpower would you want to have if you could have any superpower?
Superpower. I think it would be cool to be able to fly, so I could just fly into New Orleans and check out a multifamily property in like 2 seconds to see if it's a good deal. I could fly over the roofs, make sure that everything looks good. Now that'd be cool. I could fly to Hawaii with the family, right? So be able to just to get to places really quick.
Yeah, we had that one before, and I totally, before I was saying super speed for the same reasons, but it's harder to check the roof with super speed. So I was like, now you're like super flying and comps man.
There it is.
Yeah, it's amazing. That's a good one. Definitely, you're gonna hear that a lot in real estate. So what's your favorite book, or what's the one that helped you the most in your journey?
There's a couple books, right? So the Bible I read every single day in my journey as my character, my faith, in my personal growth, the Bible. And I would say, we talked about Rich Dad Poor Dad. There's also another one called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, which is pretty amazing. That's a cool one. And then as far as like leadership, anything by Jim Rohn, Rohn, the one called Seasons of Life. These are all really great books.
Yeah, that's great. And Never Split the Difference is one of my favorite books also. I think it's, has something for everyone, because it's not just about negotiations and hostage situations. It's about business and about life and how everything's a negotiation. And it's also super entertaining. So I always recommend that when someone's asking what they should read. Great. So what motivates you to continue doing what you do every single day?
Yeah, I'd say my family, and my wife and my 5 kids, the opportunity to build the life of our dreams and serve others, bless others, financial freedom, time, energy, travel, giving back to causes and the things that we believe in most. And so that'd be the biggest thing. It's my kids, my 4 daughters and my son and my wife.
Great. And I'm sure it's very motivating. I can only, imagine from what I've seen with my family, but one day I'm hoping to have same motivation. Great. So what advice would you give to someone who wants to follow in your footsteps?
Learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And this is a quote by Jim Rohn. Most of us, we learn to work hard on our grades, right? Or our education, or getting that degree, or getting that internship, or getting that job, or getting that, that increase in pay, or that first commission, or that first real estate deal under GP, or all of these external things, right? And those are important, and those are cool, and those are fun. And they last for a little while. But if you work harder on yourself, as your character, right? Your leadership, your faith, your health, your finances, like the things that make up the core of who you are, your relationship with your friends and your family. The saying goes, you make a fortune, right? So learn to work hard on yourself than you do on your job. If you work hard on your job, you'll make a living, which is fine. But if you work hard on yourself, you'll make a fortune. And the reason is all the things we work on internally are eternal, or all the things that are external are temporary, right? So for lasting fulfillment and change, we want to make sure we're focusing on working harder. It doesn't mean you don't work hard on those things to get good grades, or to get that college degree, or to get that job, or to start that business. That's all fine, but work harder on yourself as you develop all you create it to be. And so those would be my my last parts of wisdom to inspire people.
That's a very good point. And I mean, I try to do that all the time because I want to, invest in myself, because I think the return on investment of knowledge and self-growth is, infinite, especially if it increases the quality of my life, which ultimately, matters a lot. So I really appreciate that and agree. So lastly, since I put you on the spot with the lightning round, I want to give you a chance for revenge. So feel free to ask me any question you want to know about me.
Let's see, Ben. Is it LSU Tigers, or is it where are you originally from?
I'm from Washington, D.C. area, Potomac, Maryland, but I go to Tulane right now. So roll wave.
Okay. So roll wave. All right. So I was trying to think of DC. If there's like who's like the big college out there? I don't know.
We got University of Maryland. I got a lot of friends over there.
Okay. University. Yeah. The University of Maryland, but they're really good at basketball. They're not really good at football. So that doesn't really count. So I couldn't be a sports one, Ben. So I would say, when are you going to come out with a book, Ben?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm working on my copywriting skills and kind of trying to find my direction and what I think I can provide a lot of value to people. But I mean, haven't really made it tangible goal in that respect yet. But I mean, it's in my head. It's baking.
Cool.
It was there with like, a couple months ago, I was thinking about a podcast. So it's just like an idea. And then all of a sudden I just was like, this is my direction. I'm ready. Like, let's start sharing and let's get myself out there and let's improve as much as I can in public speaking and networking. And I mean, it's been an amazing journey so far. So I hear the same about a book. So I'm going to have to do that as well. Maybe we can talk about some ideas in the future.
Absolutely, man. I think that'd be
Great.
awesome. You should do it. Take action.
I will. Sounds good. And now I got you all holding me accountable. So feel free to ask me that question whenever you want. All right, great. So thank you everyone for spending your time with us. And I hope you got a lot out of this video. Hope you are thinking about your next real estate milestones. And I hope this and every interview in the future will help you get there. So please like and subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen. And if you want to find Brett, can you tell us where people can find more about you?
Yeah, you go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. You can also search our YouTube channel, Capital Gains Tax Solutions. We also have another podcast called Expert CRE Secrets as well. We come out with a brand new book, Building a Tax Deferred Exit Strategy, the proven playbook for unlocking your ideal wealth plan when selling assets of any kind for yourself or your clients. We also have a free mastermind and a free ebook as well. You can check out by going to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. We're talking all things cryptocurrency, commercial real estate, exiting smart, right? Deferring millions of tax. And that's all totally free. So go check all that out, capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. This one will be on Amazon and it'll be a paid book. So you'll see that come out and the opportunity to take advantage of that. But everything else we have a ton of free content on YouTube and our podcast as well, iTunes, Spotify.
Well, I'm definitely going to have to check out that book because super excited about this
Cool.
idea and glad to have you on. So guys, I hope everyone got a lot of wisdom and, learned a lot from our expert, Brett. And Brett, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, man. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.